is Aural. Okay, so it's the listening section. That is 140 marks. Okay, then you finish that, the tape ends, blah, 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 you go on, you crack on with the rest of your paper, then you'll be told, okay, off you go. Okay, then we have our reading comprehension over the other hour and a half. We have our reading comprehension, which is also worth 140 marks. And we have our written section, which is worth 80 marks. Okay, now we know we're lucky in that they have lowered the distinction bracket. However, this section here, this written section is really, if you are looking for the distinction, that's where you're going to want to focus a lot of your, how do we say, your specific work, because they do count on you being very, very specific. We have to remember this is a paper that every single person in the country who's doing French will be sitting. So the person who speaks French at home with their family is sitting the same paper rather as the person who's like, I think I can say my name, which means there will be a question for every single one of you. But also, if you want the distinction, you have to show the examiner why you deserve it. Now that we started off with our inspirational talk, let's look at how that can happen, how we can make that happen, because it's not very, very difficult. We just have to be a bit particular. Okay, you want to be really kind of fine kind of combing all of the information that you're looking for and all the information that you're providing. And there are a couple of things that we just need to be aware of. Now when we get to the written section, again, we're here, we have an hour kind of carved out to spend with each other. If there are any questions that you have, please throw them into the chat. Okay, and of course I'll be answering those anyway. If we're in the middle of something, we might just take a minute just to finish that off before we answer the question. So if you're like, God, it's been a couple of minutes and my question hasn't been answered yet, please don't be worried, I have seen it. Sometimes it's just, you know yourself, when you're kind of halfway through something, you go, if I stop now, I'm never going to get this train of thought back. And like the thing is, I'm sure you know yourselves now, having kind of had the experience with it, you're at the stage now where you're kind of, your brain is a little bit yogurt anyway. You're kind of going, oh God, just give me to the end of this week so that I can be done. And I'm not going to use my brain for at least a week. I'm just going to power down and relax. So here's the thing, French, okay. To get a distinction, you have to really understand what's going on. To do well, you just have to kind of be on top of your vocab. Now, you might be saying to yourself, oh God, I'm not really on top of my vocab. It doesn't matter, okay? What you need to do is look at the context that you're given and use the vocab that you do know to make it work for you. Like I have my third years this year, I'd have someone go, okay, can I do this? I've written you an answer and I've done X, Y, and Z in it. Or, if I was doing grind and then I've given you X, Y, and Z in the answer. Even my second years. And I was like, yeah, great. Like I see what you're trying to do there, but what you've provided me is like okay French, like okay, pretty good vocab in an okay sentence. And I would much, much rather have okay vocab in an amazing sentence, in a sentence that you've taken the time to put together carefully. Okay? Because vocab really is key in the comprehension sections, and the putting the sentence together is what's key in the written section. So let's have a look at an error. Okay, it can be, I suppose, quite overwhelming. You sit down and you go, God, I'm just gonna have to listen. It's boring sometimes to listen to that tape, especially kind of, if you're like, I find these okay, they're not too hard. And then you have to listen to Bonjour, papa. Comment vas-tu aujourd'hui? You can be kind of going, oh, I kind of make my ear listen to this. This is hellish. But let's look at a paper. And I suppose with this, we're looking at every year we get different types of questions. So you have to remember what I really, really want you to take note of. And if you have to write it down so that you remember it, so that afterwards when you come out of the exam, you still remember it. The junior cycle is a skills-based exam. Okay, it's not like the Leaving Cert where you go, okay, well, you have to be able to talk about this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic, and then so long as you can write an essay on those, you're fine. It's not like that. This is not an exam on rote learning. It's not an exam on testing your memory. This is a skill-based exam. So with that, the skill that you need to have in the letter is, do I have the skill to recognize what I'm being asked? Do I have the skill to put together a blog or an email for my pen pal or whatever? Do I have the skill to write about something I've done in the past? Do I have the skill to write about something that I will do? Okay, do I have the skill to talk about my hobbies? And in the comprehensions, the skills that you need to kind of have are, do I have the skills to talk about, by which do I have the vocab to talk about, the topics that appear. So we're going to fly through, we're going to have a look, and then I'm going to give you kind of a list of last minute vocab to look over, okay? Now, this will be in your textbook. If you use, like in school, I use allons-y, and in every chapter they have the mots-clés. You might use, what's That's the only one that I quite like. J'excelle. And they have at the beginning and end of every chapter, they have kind of a word web. So whatever, like that's just going to be in your textbook. You can look it up online. You know, I didn't recreate a vocab list because it would have been an extra document for you to look at to feel stressed about reading. That is the exact same document as everything you've already done. Again, I just sometimes people are a couple of minutes late coming into these things. So if you have any questions while we're going through this, please do just drop it into the chat. Okay, please do just drop it into the chat. Lovely. Okay. So this is our listening. We start, it's the first thing we do. We can see here 140 marks. Now 140 out of 360. I'm not very quick at maths and I don't have this off the top of my head anymore. So give me 1 second. That's 39-ish percent. So the comprehensions are about 39%. 39 and 39 is about 80%. Which means the written section is only about 20%, 22%, say, which is pretty imbalanced. So this is really, these are our important sections, our listening comprehension and our reading comprehension. Okay, so you get a little bit of time to look through the question. What I would be saying to you is jot down vocab. Okay, so we have, this is ice hockey, but we're going to be listening out for okay. Okay, okay Douglas. Okay, this is table tennis, ping pong, so tennis de table or ping pong. This is football, we know that's a foot. And here we have basketball, we know that's basket. Just doing that before they even start speaking, we also know that we're listening to Theo et Amira. Okay, so just, you know, these are words I am expecting to hear. Theo, Amira, they're going to be speaking to each other. Okay, ping pong, or tennis de table, foot, basket. Okay, great. Here we have books. Now this could be, I mean, look at it. It looks a bit like hobbies. So it could be livre. I could be looking for the verb lire, to read. I could be looking at lecture, reading. They might be talking about their hobbies. Okay, here we have les jeux vidéo, video games. That's the kind of vocab I might be listening out for. Here I'm more than likely going to be listening out for do shopping. Now you might have done this comprehension, okay, and you're like, Grant, that's fine. And if you have, super, but we're looking at skills here, and also the junior cycle is pretty new, so we don't have that many papers to work off. And Leave and Cert, don't worry, when you come back to me in if you're doing TY at the end of TY or in 5th year, we'll have loads and loads of exam papers to look at together. And then here we're going to be listening to for either chanson, chanteur, chanteuse, or la musique. And again, just jotting down that word, it's just going to help you train your brain, you know? So like I get students who say to me all the time, they're like, I just can't pick the words out. And French is tough to listen to. Like if you are not, I remember when I moved to France, I spent the first like 3 days being like, I can pick out maybe every one word in 4, or maybe 1 in 4 words I can understand, because it mumbles together. So if you're like, I find this really, really tough, you can go, even tonight, go listen to this tape, follow this. And if you go to exam material archive, that's on, it's the examinations.ie. And if you look at the marking scheme, this is 2024. If you look at the marking scheme, the tape script, so the script for what they say, that's in that marking scheme. And you can even just have a read through and be like, oh, I found that question really hard, but that's because I thought it would sound like this. And then actually when they were saying it, it sounded like that. Now you're not going to go, like, you're not going to go and do loads of study after this, but this is just, you know, you might just have one listen through, one read through while you're having your dinner, or while you are, you know, getting ready for bed, doing a bit of skincare, or, you know, drying your hair. Listen to, maybe not drying your hair, be a bit loud, but, you know, you're going to listen to the French, have just a bit of a flick through. Instead of doom scrolling for half an hour, use the half an hour just to get the French in your ear and get your brain used to, when I see this, I'm hearing this. You know, it's that dual input is what we call it. You're having the input visually, but also aurally. Okay, and it's just a really nice way, really easy way for your brain to attune itself, your ear to attune itself into what it's hearing. For this next one here, this is a funny one here. You might know this word, you might not. Portefeuille. Portefeuille. It's a wallet, a purse. We've got portable. Now they're quite similar at the beginning, so You know, we're looking for, this is clé and lunette. That's ES at the end, sorry. Lunette. Okay, lunette. Ils sont où? This is, we know, aéroport. Now, they might not say, you are at the airport. They might say, flight for da 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 da. So we also need to be looking for, okay, vol, avion, flight, plane. Okay, destination, you might hear. You know, just think, when I'm at the airport, what are the keywords that I hear? What are the keywords that I hear? That's that grand. In a classroom, you might hear about devoir, you might hear about examen, you might be hearing about exercice, da da da. Train, you might hear destination, you might hear again, you might be a bit of overlap, or you might hear like le train pour Genève part de quai. You know, quai is platform. I was going to say Gleis there, but we're working into English. And then this is a shopping center. So again, you might hear something like, you might hear centre commercial. That's a bit kind of fake, isn't it? You know, it's a bit welcome to the shopping center. Like, you would never hear that. It's not real. So what you are more likely to hear is them talking about, you know, going shopping, or what magasin they might want to go to. Like, be a bit realistic about it. A bit of common sense there can be really, really helpful. What I would say to also revise for this section are household chores, which if you use Allons-y, I think we're on page 110 in the first book. Clothes, food, and colours. Just have a look over those. Household chores, clothes, food, and colours, because they do come up quite a lot in this section as well. So that first section, I don't want to say it's definitely going to look like this, because we don't know that it's definitely going to look like this, but the history of the paper shows us that so far they have all looked like this. The question one has thus far up to now looked like this. If you open it and you go, oh my God, I was expecting a tick the box and I don't have that, it's okay. Okay, every year they kind of try and do something with French or with the junior cycle papers, just to show that you can't learn off the format and learn off. You don't need to worry about that. If they give you a different format, and we'll see it, especially when we look at the written section, all you're going to say to yourself is, okay, this is maybe isn't the format I was expecting, but what is the skill that I'm expected to know? In the Aural and the reading comprehension, the only skill you are expected to know is understanding vocab and being able to apply the vocab that I've understood to an answer, to answer a question. That's the skill. Okay, so no matter what the question looks like, you are going to be able to do that because you have so much practice doing it. Okay, le Festival de musique de Québec commence. Again, here you are just, what can I hear? Can I hear it? So we need to know what it's going to look or sound like, rather. So this is going to be le, which is kind of pronounced like le, 5. Oh, le, when it does this. Juin. And that IN kind of sounds like an. And again, they do, like, they've done the same in German with questions like this. That's my other subject that I teach, where they do very similar. Le 10 juin is what that's going to sound like. 10 juin, because we only pronounce the X here when it's followed by a vowel. Okay? Le 5 juillet. And then 15 juillet. One they love to do that with is 2 verses 12. So, or even rather 2 verses 10 verses 12. 2, 10, 12. So 2 o'clock might say, because we pronounce that X at the end, 2 heures, 10 heures, 12 heures. So here you're going to have an sound, here you're going to have an E sound, and here you're going to have a really kind of from the throat ooh sound. So that's one they use as well sometimes to make it a little bit challenging, because we know that for the distinction student, there'll be a challenging question, which I suppose 85 or 84% of students might not get. but that 15 who are getting the distinction, that 15% of students are, I suppose, not getting the distinction, but that 15 kind of the students who are getting those 15% at the top, they will be able to distinguish between that. Don't quote me on the maths there. It started making sense in the beginning and then stopped making sense instantly. Thank God the maths is done and we don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, vowel sounds are what can be very, very tricky in French. Right, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit because we're about 6:15. Again, any questions, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask, because that's what this time is for. Okay, we're not really learning anything new here. I know you don't need to learn anything new. We are building your confidence. We are showing you the exam techniques. This is your revision for the evening. Exam techniques, and that you already know how to do well. And you do. You have spent 3 years practicing how to do well. Now it is just your time to shine. You sit down for 2 hours. It is your time to shine. Okay, again here, le festival dure 11 jours. So again, this is just testing. Do we know numbers? That's easy. We know our numbers. 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, I'm trying to think, do I think they'd be really mean? In French, fortnight, which we know is 2 weeks, is 15 jours. We say 15 days. I don't think they would be that mean. But do you know what? Stick it in a copy somewhere. Just put it in your kind of notebook to read over as you're going to the exam tomorrow, just on the off chance. The reason I have this up here, where I had circled Quebec, this is in Quebec. Now, we know that we can be asked about any French-speaking country. However, because this festival is in Quebec, a lot of when you have to write down, now genres of music, that's just recognizing genres. That's all you have to be able to do here. La pop, le rock, la musique traditionnelle, le rap, la musique classique, la musique country. That's fine. Recognizing genres, many of them are similar to English because it's just one of those topics that overlaps with English a lot. Where we have Quebec, Quebec we know is in Canada. So the email address finishes with .ce. Okay. Let me just have a look really quickly. What's the Belgian domain? I think it's .be. Yeah. So for Belgium, I think they'll probably only do like .f4 is France. Belgium is .be. Oh, BR is Brazil. And country domain list. I'm trying to think, are there any like really kind of Andorra? No. I'm trying to think, are there any kind of French like bigger French-speaking countries that we might see there? Probably not. Brunei, Bolivia, Caribbean, no. Bhutan, no. Botswana, Belarus, Canada, yeah, Canada CA, we could see that one. I don't think, like Democratic Republic of the Congo is .cd, but I don't think you're going to say, or .cf for the Central African Republic. Congo is .cg. Switzerland is .ch. .ci, Ivory Coast. Probably not. Côte d'Ivoire. If I were to parry a guess, I think like Djibouti, I don't think we're going to see. Algeria. I wonder what Morocco is. .eu is for EU websites, so if it was something to do with the EU, that's the EU. Gabon is GA, but that's fine. Guadeloupe. I don't think we're going to see Guadeloupe. If I were to parry a guess, there was one I wanted to look at there. What was it? What's gone off the top of my head now? Liechtenstein is German. Luxembourg, not really, no. Oh, Morocco was the one I wanted to look at. .ma. If we were to look, I suppose this one here being Canada, France, Switzerland, I would, and Belgium maybe, reckon that those would be the most likely to appear. But it's just nice to be aware of the fact that we do have different domain names for different countries, and not to have gotten used to .fr and be expecting .fr. Okay, let's keep flying. Again, here, now I've gone through some of these already, you might have seen the video on it, but I would be looking at what can I jot down to, again, when we see the picture, this is colours. This is the exact same, it's the exact same question as question 1 there. For high heels, you're looking at des talons. Talons. That's just a bit of vocab you might not know. Basket. We know, say, un jean or un pantalon. This is the kind of vocab, I see this, I just start jotting things down. That's a chemise. That's a t-shirt. À manche longue, long sleeve. Une robe. That's une veste. Un manteau is like a big coat. Une veste is like a jacket you throw on. This is also une robe verte. So if they are doing their best to make all of the vocab very similar, we're going to hear a lot of vert ou verte and blanc ou blanche. Okay, so it's the things themselves. This, sac à main. So we have two, this is sandales, des sandales. Oh. We have 2 green dresses, 2 pairs of runners, 2 white t-shirts, you see? So it's whether you can, or I suppose it's making sure that you can understand the rest of the vocab, okay? That everything else is working for you. Super, okay. Again, this is just recognizing our numbers. I've seen, even with my first and second years recently, I've just been correcting some exams. 80. Okay, 60. But remember, if you hear like 65, this is going to be. If you were to hear 75, that would be 75. So even, oh, that's a Z. Even just to revise 60 up to 99 tonight, just to have it in your head. Okay, and that would be 45. So 40, 60, they're all going to end in 5. So I'd be saying, I'm not even going to worry about that because all of them are going to end in 5. So I'm listening out for 40, 60 ou 80. Okay? And then qui a donné l'argent à Anaïs, that's fine. Again, here we are seeing a lot of these kind of desserty kind of questions. We saw it in the mock recently, last year as well, I think. This year and last year we might have seen a dessert question. This has fruit on the top. It has fraise. It's a gâteau. Okay, this is glace. Okay, this is gâteau. Now, when we're talking about the flavor of a cake, we use the preposition à. So it's gâteau au citron, or it might be on cheesecake, depending on, because it does have a crust, on cheesecake. We don't say gâteau au fromage. Oh la la, cheesecake. And this is going to be, excuse me, gâteau au chocolat. Gâteau au chocolat. So again, when we see a question like this, what can I notice? Even if you didn't know, okay, I can't remember what cheesecake is and I can't remember how to say the flavor of it, but I see lemon, so I'm listening out for citron. This is a chocolate cake, so I'm listening out for chocolat. This is an ice cream that looks like vanilla, so you might say, oh, I'm listening out for vanille or just glace. And then this is gâteau. Now we might hear gâteau, another one, avec fruits ou fraises, or then you might talk about like crème on the inside. Just what vocab am I anticipating hearing? It primes your brain to hear the vocab. It gets your ears ready for what you're potentially going to hear. And that's going to make your own life easier in the long run. Okay, we're flying through. We're kind of halfway through this. We're going to speed it up a little bit because it's 6 p.m. This is going to cut off. So if you have any questions, I suggest you get them in before then. Again, we have 2 teenagers. Now, what I would be saying is, obviously, because French is a gendered language, we can expect some level of existing within a binary. Okay, so we have Claire, we have Enzo. They are what are traditionally perceived as a feminine name and a masculine name. So Claire is more than likely going to be voiced by a girl. Enzo more than likely going to be voiced by a boy. So what does Claire have to do on Saturday morning? I'm listening for the girl to speak. Okay, I'm listening for samedi. I'm listening for matin. Okay, matin, morning. We have après-midi, afternoon, soir, evening. Okay, I'm giving myself as much opportunity to hear what they're trying to say. The two activities that Enzo suggests doing in the park, so I need two things. Make sure we give as much as they're asking for. Be as specific as you can. Now he's saying in the park. I'm listening out for park, and I'm going to be listening to the boy speaking. Why does Claire not want to go to the park? So not want to means I'm probably going to hear Je ne veux pas aller au parc. Or, oh, le parc, no, she's going to have a negative something to say about the park. Okay, and again, Claire is going to be the girl's voice. Now, the reason that they do a girl and a boy as well is so that it's much, much easier to differentiate between the two people having the conversation. Okay, if you have two girls or two boys and you find it hard to pick out tones and voices, that's going to be a really, really tough question. So often we have a boy and a girl because they're quite drastically different voices. Okay, when and where do they agree to meet? So when is either going to be a day, a date, or a time. Instantly, if I'm being asked where, I'm thinking, okay, I need to listen out for a day, a date, or a time. Okay, it might be a time of day, it might be morning, afternoon, etc. Time, and then where is going to be place. Okay, with as much detail as possible. We're just making sure we get all of our marks. As we move towards the kind of latter half of this comprehension or of this section, the questions start to get a bit more challenging. They start to require you to do a bit more. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're giving as much detail as possible. We're going to keep flying through because we're still on the arrow. What exactly does Henry need? This exactly tells me I need to be exact. Okay, Henri, their voice messages. Where is Adele now? Where? That's the key there. Look at the question word as well. Like I often correct errors that my students have done, and my students are very, very strong in the comprehension section. They work really, really hard on the averages of how they do, and those are generally quite good. The mistakes that I see are one, they didn't know the vocab, and two, they didn't look at the question word, so the question word rather. So they've just not quite given me the correct answer. You know what's really being required, and then how did Omar do in his French exam? So that's going to be like, think about the answer you expect to hear. Well, oh, sorry. Not well. That's going to be the vibe of what's going on there. Okay, Grant. Flying through question 6. Where did Noah, again, give details? That means you're going to need to be specific. Was it a hotel? Was it a camping site? What country was it in? So type of accommodation you might hear. And also location, what country. Or it might be in this town, which is beside the sea. It might be location plus extra details, you know? That's the kind of information. Again, you're just priming your brain, your ears for what it is going to hear. 2 nationalities. He mentions easy. We're just in here for nationalities. What did he say was annoying? Annoying could be énervant. Ça m'énerve. Oh, that should be A-N-T, sorry. That's often an expression that we hear. Ça m'énerve. Or ça. And this can be used in the written section as well. Ça, sorry, that's I have a shortcut on my phone if you just picked up that buzz there. Ça m'agace. Ça m'énerve, ça m'agace. You might use that then in your own written work. Énervant, fatigant un peu aussi, mais agaçant you might hear. And then 2 things that Louise did. Louise and Noah are who we're listening to. So that's who's having the conversation. So the boy speaking is Noah. That's going to be Noah's answers. The girl speaking is Louise. That's going to be Louise's answers. The announcement about the launch of a new app. When, time, day, date, or time of day, I suppose. So day, date, month is what we're really looking for. What can you do? So at whom, what type of people, and then 2 advantages. You're listening for avantage. Okay, that's the word for advantages. The only question, again, this was slightly shorter than some other arrows we've seen. And we're seeing that they are playing with the length of the paper in so far as Sometimes you might have 9 questions on the Aural. Sometimes we've seen here 7 questions. They do kind of, don't expect that it's going to be this amount of questions and then it's this amount of questions for the reading comprehension. It's not working like that anymore, okay? This is a skill-based question. They're filling 2 hours however they see fit. The only type of question we didn't see here is where you have like guitar, piano, drum, flute, I don't know what's another instrument, cymbals, and then you have to rank them in popularity, or holiday destinations, you have to rank them in popularity. Now, what they often do is they'll start with first, then they'll do last, and then second, third, fourth, just to bear that in mind. But with that, and these are quite a nice question when they come up. Première place. Okay, first place. Dernière, last, or cinquième, dernière position. Then we hear deuxième, troisième, quatrième. Just if you see that question. But this, like every year before 2024, we had seen that question. And then in 2024, we didn't see it. So we're not sure if in 2025 it will return. But that can be a very nice question. And this, I suppose, is the key vocab that you're listening for. And making sure you know the vocab that's here. So jot down what you think the French might be. Now, this is fine. Like guitars, la guitare, le piano, la batterie, la flûte, les cymbales. Like that would be very, very easy. Sometimes it's holiday destination. You might hear Allemagne. We saw about foreign languages, wasn't it? Allemand, japonais, espagnol. I'm not sure if that was from a mock paper or from an actual paper. But like the popularity of different foreign languages to learn in school was another one. And that brings us to question 8. Now, that's what I've gone through this obviously at some point. You might look at this and be like, I have no idea what fâché means. Obviously, they've tried to be really trendy by using emojis, but these are the ones that are supposed to be quite easy. Okay, this is the start of the reading comprehension section, which is I suppose the section that should be accessible for everyone. So there are some of these that you should know, okay? Malade, I would expect you to know. Sick. Fatigué, tired, you know that one. Triste, sad. Content, happy. So even if you didn't know fâché, you're going to work with, what do you call it? Like keeping going until you've one left and it has to be the answer. I can't remember what that's called. Oh my God, it's gone. Anyway. That's fine. We're not going to spend any time on these. Those are easy. Now, in some years, we've seen 2 of these types of questions, where you see one where you have to match and then another one where you have to match. We don't see that at all, actually, here. We're going to fly through these now. I've gone through some of these I think I actually have videos on the platform of me going through these. Or I went through it maybe in my Easter course. So again, go back and watch that. But here, what I've seen people do wrong, once we start getting to the written questions where you have to answer in French, où. Know your question words. Okay, où, where. So I'm looking for a place. So visit the best of Périgord. You want to, when they're asking you where, and it's in a written question, you have to be specific. Okay? La grotte est connue, well known, or known, for its paintings and its prehistoric engravings. La grotte est située. Okay, située. Se trouve. Se trouve. It's kind of the same as est situé or se situe. That's the kind of vocab I'm looking out for. Sorry. Just move it down a little bit for you there. Yep. Qui est robot? Who is it? You need to find that out. Again, this is going to be information in the ad that you just need to say, is that true or is that false? Okay? Question 10, fine. Conversation. Look here. This is Eloise speaking. Okay? Eloise. This is Adeline speaking. Okay? So, if it makes it easier to be like, to really point and just make it so obvious to yourself that you don't get mixed up, do that. Or put an E in it. E, A, E, A, E, A, E. Because again, a mistake that I've seen when I correct the junior cycle, the last time I did it was for German, not French, but a mistake that I see is people just don't read the conversation properly. or they get mixed up, or they're not really 100% sure, you know, they get a little bit turned around in this type of question, and then they make a mistake. Okay? Donc, Héloïse doit. Héloïse must. So we're looking at what Héloïse is saying. So I'm looking at these. What does she have to do? So, elle doit, I'm looking for the verb je dois. Je dois promener mon chien. Even if I didn't know what that meant, I can recognize chien. Yeah? So look for the easiest word that you know and work backwards from there. Okay, this is easy stuff. This is all going to go amazingly. Adeline est malade. Elle a. So Adeline, okay, je ne peux pas, je suis malade. That doesn't tell me any detail about it. Je ne sais pas, j'ai très mal à la gorge et j'ai de la fièvre. So I have a very sore throat and I have a fever. That's itching. No. That's sore tummy. No. Sore throat and then sore head. So this is the closest one. Now we know she actually has a fever as well, but we don't have any pictures to help us with that. And then where does Eloise want to go this weekend? So I'm looking for Eloise this weekend. They're the two clues that I have. Eloise and this weekend. Oh, excellent. Where does she want to go? Au cinéma. And I've said au cinéma. The place itself is enough. So just to say cinéma would get you your 3 or 4 marks, whatever. In the marking scheme, if you ever look through them, you might see in brackets the O. That means you don't need it to get the marks. To the cinema. We want to try our best not to make grammar mistakes, mostly just to train us for Leaving Cert, because if you make a grammar mistake in a Leaving Cert comprehension, you will lose a mark. In the junior cycle, less, okay? What I will say is, if you know that when you're in a high stress situation, or when you start to feel a bit of time pressure, or you were like, I'm a bit, I just get a bit, my attention to detail goes when I know that the stakes are quite high. Please, I beg, for every question that you have to write yourself, cinéma. I'll go back to the word. Okay, it's C-I-N-E, accent going up, M-A. C-I-N-E, accent going up, M-A. Because if you misspell the word and it was given to you in the text, you'll just get 0. Okay? If it was a word where you have not spelled it correctly and it was provided for you in the question, the examiner will not take kindly to that. Okay, that is the one thing I would have to say. It was, in my experience as an examiner, it was one of the things that I just hated taking the marks off, or not being able to appoint the marks. I was like, it's such a shame. It's so silly that this person just didn't read the question a bit better. And that is where, it's 2 hours, you're not really in the habit in third year of sitting big exams all the time, or you might have a school that actually does it, but maybe twice a year you sit an exam where you have to really pay attention and it really kind of goes for something. Just please don't be the person who didn't read the question properly or didn't transcribe the word correctly. Because unless you have a spelling and grammar waiver, you might have dyslexia, you might have any kind of thing that can make it a bit tough for you, or a bit tougher for you to spell, for you to transcribe words across. Unless you have a spelling and grammar waiver, the examiner just will not give you the marks. Okay. Lovely. So again here, this was a new question, newish question. Okay. Oftentimes what we would see here is an interview, and it might be like, in the first paragraph, this person's telling me about their family. In the second paragraph, they're telling me about their house. In the third paragraph, they're telling me about their job. And then what you might see here is questions, and say if this was paragraph 1, this was paragraph 2, this was paragraph 3. And the question might be, avez-vous des frères ou avez-vous des enfants? And that'd be, okay, well, that's the question where they tell me about their family. So that's the question for paragraph 1. Does that make sense? That's how this question does appear, like the type, the skill that you have to do of kind of finding the information in the question and then assigning a sentence to it. That's the skill that you're practicing here. It's just a different way of seeing that. So, don't be really, really used to that other type of question where you have an interview and you have to match the questions with the answer, which is what we've done here. It's the same skill, okay? So again here, I suppose there are things that help it easy, okay, that make it easier. C'est la fin, it's the end. Makes sense, it's the end. Okay, so that's going to be the last one. Okay, avant-dernière étape is penultimate, so second last. Penultimate step, second last step. L'étape suivante, following step. So that's not going to be number 1, is it? It's going to have to have at least one. that precedes it. Thoiry, 9 heures dans le parking du zoo. We are welcomed by Mark, the guide, dans le parking, car park. And that one's given to us. Nous commençons notre visite dans le cours. We start our visit where we prepare food. Okay, manger, prépare à manger, prepare something to eat, prepare food. Avant de finir, before finishing. So I suppose the second last step is 6, and then the end is after 6. And then ensuite is then. You might also see après ça. So it's about being able to sequence things. That's the skill you're working on there. After that. Ensuite, after. So again, it's just the sequencing. We might see première étape, first step. But probably not, because that would give a bit too much away. And also the first one is generally given to us, so they don't really need to give us too much help here. Grand, we're flying through. This is, again, in English, this one, and then this longer one. They can be quite tough. This is where we start having to be a bit specific. We're getting to the end of the reading comprehension. I kind of want to fly through this because we only have about 18 minutes left before the video cuts out, and it will just stop. So if we get to 6 o'clock and it just if it just ends, it's just that the time has run out. So again, pour la pâte, that's just dough. Again, have a little look over your food vocab, because food does come up. It's a very cultural part of it. La garniture is kind of the filling. Okay. Tick the ingredients mentioned. So again, this is your beurre, lait, pomme, cerise, chocolat, œuf. We also see this in the listening sometimes. I can't remember, was it a German paper I saw it on? They might say tick everything that the person mentions. So it was someone talking about maybe selling clothes or what they were packing for a weekend away or something. And they were like, tick everything that they've packed in their suitcase. Okay, according to legend, who invented? So I'm looking for a person. Okay, inventé. So when they're using a specific verb, like invented is quite a specific, who invented the apple pie? I suppose we would say that in English, but it's quite a specific verb. So look and see, can you find a specific translation? Where was the Hotel Teton? Again, try and be as specific as you can. Our question word is important. Where, again, they're asking us where you need to be specific. When you see where or où, be as specific as you can. And then why does the author suggest? Now, when the questions are in English, what's important is that we understand the text, okay? That we're able to translate. This is where we see our longer one then. Again, we have had, this was only 6 questions this was a shorter paper than they have been, in that it had fewer questions. And then German this year, last year, had loads and loads of questions on it. But this was quite short. This is our last, it's not, sorry, it's penultimate, second last, comprehension. You read the following profile about Mathilde. We can see here we have paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, answer the questions in English. It tells you exactly where to find that information from. In this, you need 3 pieces of information. Okay, 3 pieces of info. That's what you're looking for. Okay, each one is going to be worth 2 marks. So what does Mathilde, you need to be so specific here. If it is not in section 1, and if it is not specifically about her family, do not include it. Don't just translate the whole paragraph because you're like, I'll just hedge my bets. Don't bother. What a waste of your time. What does she say here about her family? Her mom is Italian. Her dad, she says, I'm called Mathilde. I'm 15. That's nothing to do with her family. That's her personal details. Don't care. My mom is Italian and my dad is French. There's 2 pieces of information. That's about her, not her family, but she was in Paris. Nothing. That's nothing to do with her family. That's just about her. She has 2 brothers, Matteo and Thomas. She's the youngest. That's in the frame of her family. You might say her family lived in England and her family lives in Paris now, but we're not going to say it about her specifically. In the house, we speak French and Italian. My dad makes some fautes, erreurs in Italian, but he understands us very well. Okay, so this is what I mean. This is how specific we have to be. How did they meet? Again, a specific. Describe her visits to her grandparents. So it has to be about her grandparents. It has to be about in Italy, sorry, and when she was visiting. So even take 2 or 3 minutes when you start this question and be like, what information are they actually asking me for? It's very, very important. How did they say her origins influence her character? And then what are her future plans? And again, 3 pieces of information for each one. Again, oh, sorry, this is in English as well. Bizarre. Normally, this one is like a little bit further back. The 2024 paper, the structure of it was entirely different to anything we had seen before. And I know last year my now TYs came out and they were like, "Miss, that was a crazy paper. Like that was, we had never seen anything like that before." And that's fine. Like you might go in tomorrow and not get any questions that look like any of these. And if you do, you are not going to panic. What you're going to do is you're going to sit down, you're going to look at the question, and even if you have to spend 5 minutes looking at it, to go, what skill are they expecting me to do? What information am I actually looking for in the comprehension? Because in the listening comprehension, it's just vocab. It is just a vocab test. Okay, and in the reading comprehension, it's knowing your question words. So go again, like go to the Quizlet and go to les mots, if you're the Quizlet, go to Quizlet. Les mots interrogatifs. Question words. 5 minutes tonight, bit of vocab or a bit of revision. There's your study for tomorrow. Do you know? But again here, in what way? That's just how. You hear resemble, you're probably going to see the verb ressembler. Okay, why is Lola happy? We've seen happy. Happy is content. Heureux ou heureuse. Or it might be to do with sourire, to smile. You know, that shows us that, so that's the word for a smile and to smile. We have here, who is Annabelle? We're going to need to give details about who that person is. And then in the case of the male teachers, which body part looks the same? That's fine. So we have here, les femmes sont habillées en bleu. They're dressed in blue. They all have the same smile and the same haircut. Les hommes sont en gris. Et Lola a l'impression qu'ils ont tous le même visage. The same face. Okay, mêmes yeux, mêmes oreilles, mêmes cheveux. Same ears, same eyes, same ears, same hair. A bit like clones. So they've given specific, so you can say face, ears, eyes, what was the last one? Hair, that's the body part, yeah. Okay, give all of those details, just to be sure. Then we get to the question or the section that really, if you are looking for the distinction, this is where you're building it. This is where the distinction is made. Okay, you've been asked to give a brief presentation in French class. This is very, very different to how we've seen the grammar section appear before. In other MFL papers, well, because we know now that French isn't a standalone subject anymore. French, German, Spanish, Italian all exist within the scope of MFL, Modern Foreign Language. So we haven't yet, I suppose this is a question that had appeared in other MFL papers, but not necessarily in French before. In French, normally what we saw was the sentence with the box, and you had to pick the correct one. With that, if you see it and it's the boxes and you have to pick the correct one, take the time and say to yourself, what am I being asked to look at here? Am I being asked to look at the adjective? Is it a conjugation? Is it that I have to pick whether it's masculine, feminine, da 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 da? Okay, take a second and go, rather than just ticking and being like, yeah, it's that. Take a second. What you're going to do is you're going to identify what is it they're asking me. Okay, what are my clues? What's the context? Because there's always context. Can I see like an un or an une? Can I see any other adjectives? Can I see if it's a verb that I need to conjugate? Is there anything that gives me a clue to, you know, is there a subject or a subject pronoun? Okay, here we were given a box with vocab and we had to fill it in. So we were given a word bank and we had to put it in. Again, date de naissance, date of birth. So again here I picked was born. And again, it follows the same order. So we're working down just systematically through it. But again, this is your grammar. We're not learning grammar at this point. You can take a screenshot of this if you need to. Or go back and flick through the Easter video and see where I go through this, because we went through this together. But again here, I suppose we're just kind of looking now at how we can make sure that, and this is all in the Easter or the notes that are available to download for today. They've given us a name here. Doesn't matter which one you pick. You might be, your real name might be Adam and you're like, oh, I'm going to pick Amanda. Makes absolutely no odds. You might be Eloise and you're like, oh, I'm going to do Adam. That's easier for me. I'm going to pick the masculine one because then I don't have to worry about agreeing verbs or adjectives or anything. You might choose to do that. What we really need to be aware of is that you read this question. Please, please, please read the question first, because they might give you a name. And then if you use the name, or you don't use the name rather, that might cause an issue. You might lose marks there. Okay? Nom, prénom. Again, in the notes that are available to download, I've gone through kind of the last however many years and any information that you might need to include. So for example, if they ask your age and you just put 15 and you don't put en, you cannot get full marks. You must put years. Okay? If you put your date of birth or what, and you don't, like if you give it a number, sometimes they won't give you full marks. Okay? So go through, I've all of the answers are there in those notes. We only have 9 minutes left, so I'm going to let you do that, so the written notes on filling out a form. Again, this, look, 2 to 3 pieces, 3 pieces of information max, that's absolutely fine. These are all just, they're in the notes with translations. I literally copy and pasted it over, so I'm not going to go through it too much. Oh, so where it says de la, that's just that. Give it a sec. That's just that. It can change. So just be mon du. This E I have in brackets here. If you were Amanda, you would put the E. If you were Adam, you wouldn't put the E. Okay. Again, here, I suppose the most important thing is they link. We correct online now. So say like if you have to, I've put a star here, and I've gone to the page at the end, and I've put question 16, option C, because I would, as an examiner, have to flick through this, and I would have to manually, there's like a button that kind of looks like this, like a link button, and I have to click it, and I have to link to question 16, and I click the link button, and I click question 16, and then it sticks this page to now I could link it to many pages. I might have a question 18 or 17 here, and I would just link it to whatever, but write it really, really clearly. Like if you have to go to extra page, do a little star so that the examiner knows, okay, that star means I'm looking for a star at the end, and just put the question and what part of the question you're answering, because it makes it really, really easy for the examiner to then link it to the question it needs to be on. And the easier we can make life for the examiner, the easier life is going to be for us. But that's fine. Again, here, all of these, we often, or we have seen, okay, you write an email, you write a blog, you're opening and closing. It's not like in the Leaving Cert where there's a certain structure, there's certain marks. But you are going to write an opening. Bonjour, me voilà ici. Bonjour, mes chers lecteurs. Hello, my dear readers, if it's a blog. Again, I have openings, I have closings in the notes. That's grand. I suppose you don't write it because you have to write an opening, but the word count is 200 words. Okay? If you don't hit 200 words, you cannot get full marks. Okay, you're marked on a lower E, which is lower expression. So this is where 36 questions, 36 marks. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 24. And then 12 for kind of, so 24 communication, 12 expression. So if you were to get 12 or below for content, this would max at 8. Okay, so the scale gets kind of contracted down, and it's basically so that you don't have someone learning off a really, really beautiful answer that's not at all relevant. So lower E applies if you get less than 50% in content, which is this bit here, that's content, answering the questions asked, or less than 200 words. Now, if you get to 190 and you're like, oh, just throw in a plus tard, like stretch something out a little bit. But again, what we're seeing here is you're being asked to describe, write about each of the following. Sometimes it will be a question. So if it's an email to someone, they might say, à quelle heure, je sais pas. This is probably, they would not something this specific, but commence l'école. You might see actual questions when it's an email, but when it's a blog, sometimes they just give you a sentence to write. You get, it doesn't have to be, there's no set length for how long your answer must be. but you get 3 marks, so either 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, based on how clear what you say is. And then if you include extra information like an expression or like just something a bit more, you can get an extra mark. Okay, so for example, I suppose another thing, temperature is a big one. Be able to, I'm just really conscious of the fact that we've about 4 minutes left before we fly off, but just to be able to do like il y a, hang on, sorry. In the past was il y avait. In the future, il y aura. Okay, there was, there is, or there are, and there will be. C'est, it is. C'était, ce sera, it will be. Okay, so this we use for weather. We use that plus noun, or just if you want to say there is, there was, da 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 da. This we use for everything else. And then if we're talking about like it was raining, il, give it a sec, it's just saving there. Il faisait, that's an S. Il fait, il fera. So just being able to, even those 3 verbs that are very important, just being able to do them in the past, present, and future. And also being able to identify the verb you're being, or the tense you're being asked to answer in. What you might do is just go and pick one weather expression from my notes. Il fait un soleil de plomb. Okay, the weather's amazing. It's like literally a sun of lead. The sun's made of lead, it's so heavy on me. But with this, décrit la journée scolaire, that's present. Décrit les matières étudiées, the subjects, that's present. Les installations scolaires, present. Les sports pratiqués, present, the sports that are practiced. Les activités que les élèves belges feront, that's the future. What this question didn't ask at all, sorry, le temps en Irlande en ce moment, that's present. This question did not ask at all for you to talk about anything in the past tense. That's crazy. So I would, when I see that and I'm kind of saying, right, they're not asking me anything in the past tense at all, I would be trying to put in something in the past tense just to show it off, because we're not being asked to show that off. And if we look at this previous question, now I suppose here we did see what did you do last summer. Okay, so we have been given the opportunity, but I that's a separate question. So when I would be thinking to myself, you know, is there a tense that I haven't been asked to show off? Can I show that off? Guys, 58 minutes, we did it. Okay, so I suppose the areas that you want to look, we've gone through vocab topics: clothes, food, colours, numbers, dates, days of the week, months of the year, food we've said, body parts, big one. And just making sure in that written section that you address every question, that you give, you know, make sure that there's a verb. When you get to the end of your sentence, is there a verb in that sentence? Is it in a tense? Is it conjugated? Do my adjectives agree? Do I, you know, am I just kind of writing nonsense? It's much, much better that you do a sentence that's maybe a little bit less showy-offy, you know, less jazz hands, more good sentence, okay? We have a mere seconds before this closes, but I wish you all the very, very, very best of luck. You are going to absolutely fly it because you put in so much hard work, and this is it. And then we're going to come back next year and we're going to start looking at leave insert, which we'll find a bit more challenging, but we'll have so much more fun with, because it's much less do this, do this, do this, and then, you know, we can have a lot more fun with it. So best of luck. I hope everything's gone well so far. I hope you have a good experience with the exam tomorrow. Remember, take your time, jot things down. Make sure that you are 100% sure what you are being asked to do, because that it's not a hard paper. You just need to be specific as you can, give as much detail as you can. That's it. I think this has probably stopped streaming now. Okay, thank you very much.